Right. All right, we're recording. The meeting is called to order. First up, we have a new member, Jared. Jared, you want to introduce yourself? We are now at full tech commission seats. All 13 seats are filled. Jared, if you want to just introduce yourself, say a little bit about your professional expertise, and we'll all go around and do the same thing.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jared Stancombe. I think I was appointed last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Weeks together. But I'm currently a contractor with CISA, and I'm working in like smart city infrastructure, doing risk analysis and understanding threats to municipal infrastructure. Previously, I worked as a SOC analyst for a law firm. I did some SOC analyst work too with some banks. I was with PwC. I worked with some banking and finance clients in the Fortune 500. I got a master's degree in cybersecurity, but before that, I'm in the nonprofit sector and spent some time abroad. So, yeah, I guess.
Great. Andrew?
Hello, Andrea. Been on the commission now since 2021, July of 2021. I'm a doctoral student. I'm also a system security engineer for Red Rock Government Services. I said retired Army, right? So, that's it.
Prescott Martin, cybersecurity security architect, currently at Deloitte. I joined the commission last summer, so I'm coming up on a year.
Okay.
I'm Jim Smith. I also came onto the commission last spring. I'm a semi-retired telecommunications attorney, and along the way, as well as law firms, I also was CEO of a National Industry Association of Telecom Companies and a VP of a telecom company based in Dallas. Well,
Richard Archambault, I'm the county CISO, and I'm the staff liaison for ITAC. Have been for about 5 years. Which is about when I joined the county like 5.5 years ago. So almost.
I'm Lee. I'm the CIO for the county. Been with the county for about 2 years. Prior Marine, retired Marine, in various roles in cybersecurity, infrastructure, applications, you name it.
Frank Jazzo. I'm a fully retired telecommunications, except for this. How do you do that? And I've been on the commission for 24 years.
I want to note that fully retired into the transcript.
That's right.
John Burke, product manager. Been on the commission since 2018. Yeah. Mike?
Michael Cornfield, retired professor of political management, just returned from Navajo Nation, where the broadband penetration is very, very low.
With that, I noticed we got a couple public members of the public on the line. Do we have any public comment? Oh, hey, Miranda, you're just in time to finish out introductions.
Hi, I'm Miranda.
Jared's our new member.
Hello, welcome. Yeah, I live in Arlington and with my community for a little while now. I've been in Arlington for 20 plus years. Graduated from our schools, and
the other non-cyber, non-FCC attorney.
I'm a product manager. I build software.
Great. All right. So I sent out a note that we're going to be a little bit more organized around doing meeting minutes. So if you didn't happen to see it, I created a sign-up sheet. Prescott has volunteered for tonight to scribe for tonight. Essentially, everyone's going to take a meeting, and then sign up for a backup meeting, and then we'll just rotate through over the course of the year so that no one's doing it too much, and we don't forget to do it, which has happened a couple times. We're a little backlogged. So for the chair's update, really the only thing I had was Jared coming on board. I think I wanted to start the conversation around the broadband infrastructure tonight. Not really start the conversation, but start our conversation around it. I feel like we've had several meetings where we've had the folks who are doing the study come brief us on their findings. We've asked them some questions. Excuse me. There's been some background on it. We've talked around it, but I really wanted to kind of just have an open conversation amongst the commissioners, see where we're at, and propose, a path forward for us to get to a place where we're comfortable making a consensus recommendation to the board. Right, phase 3 of the broadband study is going to be coming out. I'm assuming soon. I think the schedule that I refreshed myself with this evening on the website said winter. So we're maybe a little bit beyond that, or maybe I'm misinterpreting it. But the next recommendation is essentially a recommendation from the consultant to the county about how to move forward with broadband. And so I wanted us to kind of put our own heads around what that means and how we want to go. So I'm going to share a thing quick, just to remind ourselves of where this is coming from. So this is the Code of Virginia. This is the section of the code that describes the comprehensive plan under planning and the powers of local government. And down here, all the way towards the bottom, in 2018, the legislature added this paragraph E. So that is, and I'll zoom in for those who are not staring at my screen in front of me. So that is the language that was added in 2018. That is kind of the impetus for this conversation. We've previously recommended addressing things more than broadband, but I think at the very least, we need to talk about broadband. And so the other thing we've recommended is that it be its own slice of the comprehensive plan. It could be integrated into the other attributes of the other slices of the comprehensive plan. But this is what the comprehensive plan is right now on the county website. It's got a lot of the other pieces of the puzzle. It's had some pieces added recently, some pieces updated. The Affordable Housing Master Plan, I'm just going to pull that up as an example of what a slice looks like. And one of the things it does is it structures itself. Where is it? So it starts with principles, and then it goes down to goals, and then objectives, and then policies. It's also 52 pages long. Right. Hey, Jackie.
Sorry for being late, but I'm here in person.
That's wonderful. We've just kind of started the conversation around, I'm just kind of introing the conversation around the broadband infrastructure. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is one way that a comprehensive plan element is structured. Others are structured differently. Here is a sewer sanitary plan. Where is it? Sewer system collection plan, which was just updated. This is scanned fresh off the presses from February. In this plan, sorry, let me get down to the actual plan. We have 3 plan goals and objectives. So I'm going to scroll down to that. Right, where we have just objectives. So it doesn't start from like the principles level. It just gets straight into the objectives. And I raised this just to kind of share, it doesn't seem that there is a right or wrong way to do it, but from a policy perspective, I think what all the comprehensive plan elements have in them is they talk about the outcomes that we're trying to achieve as a community, right? It's not thou shalt put a line of cable here, or thou shalt put a sewer line here or there, right? On the
Not
map.
ordinances, it's plans, not
Right.
ordinances.
So it's very high level,
Right.
and it's long reaching, right? These plans need to be forward looking, to the point where they don't need to be updated very frequently because they're talking at the strategic level.
Outcomes.
And often
Outcome.
aspirational.
Most of them are 5-year, on a 5-year update.
Yeah, there's the law that requires the 5-year update. So at the very least, it should be pretty stable over 5 years.
And the plan itself is supposed to be reviewed every 5 years. It doesn't mean it gets updated.
Yeah.
This year is a year they're reviewing and doing updates. That's in the work plan.
Well, I also noticed that when I was going and refreshing myself, we got another paragraph. We got paragraph F, which added resilience, but that's not part of our charter. So, so that being said, that's kind of how I want to frame the conversation, and talk about what the objectives that we think are reasonable and appropriate for broadband infrastructure in Arlington County. And I'll just pause there and take a trip around the room and see if there's thoughts or comments. Jackie?
I have a first overarching question.
Sure.
And I gather the legislation specifically mentioned digital equity or broadband access. It was focused on broadband.
This is the language from the right here up on the screen.
Yeah, I think I also read it in what you said. It seems to me that that is a very narrow piece, like transportation is a requirement, land use is a requirement. But these are all in the plan at a broad level.
Right.
So it would seem to me that this would be the place where our digital strategic plan would go. And one of the elements would be broadband. And so I guess the first thing would be that we should have a discussion with policymakers on whether or not that's something they would be open to, because frankly, just broadband, well, you need to include it, is itself not comprehensive enough to really be an element of the plan.
Yeah. Well, I'll pause.
Jackie, can I ask a question of you? I'm looking at E, which talks about the comprehensive plan shall consider strategies to provide broadband infrastructure that's sufficient to meet the current and future needs of residents and businesses in the locality. So is that not the mandate? And I don't see any, while I'm all for digital equity in all things, is that in this legislation?
I didn't say digital equity. I said a digital strategic plan, which is what we've been advocating for. And this is, so there's the broad legislation that is existent on what a comprehensive plan, and you have to have a comprehensive plan, and the elements that it may include. And it's very broad about what it could include. We could have added a digital strategic master plan at any time. We have the authority to do that.
County.
The county has
Right,
the
yes,
authority
yeah.
to add a digital strategic plan, master plan, because they're all called master plans.
Right.
To as an element of the comprehensive plan. We haven't done that, but this is a mandate to add a specific narrow piece that would fit under that umbrella. And so what I'm saying is, if we're going to go ahead and add an element of the strategic plan, that is one portion of our overall digital planning, it would seem to me that what we should do is do that as part of identifying what the other elements of our digital planning are. That's all.
Yeah, and that is what the commission has recommended in the past. And
Yes, that's what our recommendation.
what I started the conversation with was, we've recommended that, but we at least need to do this.
Exactly, but I was
Because-
kind of trying to answer this question. Legislation only will require us to add this, but we have the authority to do something about it.
Sure. Mike, you got your hand up?
I just wanted to know, given that the mission statement has as a goal to establish Arlington as a hub for artificial intelligence, who has jurisdiction over artificial intelligence? Would that be considered digital? Would that
Like-
be considered?
Where do you see that in the, where do you see that?
I see that in, I think it's the mission statement.
In the mission statement for the comprehensive plan?
Mhm.
For the county vision?
It's not.
Oh, it's the county mission.
Yeah. Let me check, because I took notes on several parts today and I didn't, but I saw establish a hub for artificial intelligence. Perhaps it's the manager's report. But I'll
Like if-
find it. The
Yeah, if you
question is, who has jurisdiction?
You mean what department?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to gather our questions and have our conversation, and we're going to submit questions in writing to Richard, and he'll run them down for us and get us official answers, okay? Does that sound like a plan?
Okay. That's
Okay.
fine with me.
That's not one you can ad hoc answer.
Let's have our conversation, let's put it in writing, let's get an official answer. Jared?
No, going back to this, so I see provide broadband infrastructure that is sufficient to meet the current and future needs of residents and businesses. And we could consult and receive technical assistance. Has there been a plan for a needs assessment or?
So there's an ongoing broadband study right now.
Oh yeah, okay, the phase, okay.
Right.
All right.
There's phase 1 and phase 2 reports have already come out.
Okay.
We're waiting on phase 3.
Okay,
So there has been a lot of work to assess what the current needs are, what the current marketplace is like, and what several different models might look like from an economic standpoint.
those models are basically taking into account like future needs, right?
Yeah. So that is definitely something that we're going to need to consider. That's a lot of really good work there. Whether it's
And that seems that the county's study should lead to satisfying the statutory mandate for a comprehensive broadband plan, but I don't think it necessarily leads to what we've been advocating, which is the broader
right.
overall. And I think we went back and forth whether it's a digital comprehensive planning element or technology or information technology. But,
Just another thought. CIFA just stood up our planning and zoning committee, which is why I'm so deeply into all of this. And so what the plan is for the review of the comprehensive plans in the 2024 work plan, CPHD. That is one of the things they're focusing on. And they're focusing on several aspects of it. But people are looking at and comparing what are the elements that other jurisdictions have in their plans. So I did a bunch of different cities in Virginia. I don't remember, but we can absolutely do that and say, what do other jurisdictions, how do other jurisdictions treat different digital technical things in addition to broadband? Is that a separate, piece of the pie, or how do they look at that? And there, other states have similar things, so you can do, and that's actually, I used ChatGPT to do that survey. So, and I went back and checked every one. But I just asked very simply, the query was just, what are the specific elements listed in the comprehensive plan for these places in Virginia.
So that's a great segue into a piece of homework that I was hoping someone would volunteer for, which is to do just that, to review what other municipalities in Virginia have done on this topic since this was added to the comprehensive plan. Was that in
When was that?
2018? And then we had that little global pandemic in there that kind of absorbed a little bit of attention. So it's quite possible that there are other municipalities that have already done this or in the process of doing this. It's quite possible that nobody else has done this yet.
What's your time frame? I could volunteer, but not for sending something due in April.
That's fine.
If it's due in May, I could do it. I just
That would be
have a bunch of
wonderful.
events.
Andrea wants.
No,
Andrea
thank
wants to know. Okay. Okay. So that's fantastic. You two have signed up for homework task number 1. Try and find other municipalities in Virginia who've done this, and what have they done?
Nicholas pasted a note into the chat.
Yes, the Broadband Advisory Commission.
Oh, yeah, that report.
Thank you. So the manager convened a commission in 2018 that included a current member of this commission and a former chair of this commission on its members. And I linked you guys to the report. It's on the county website. And the thrust of that commission was to look at essentially how to get more value out of Connect Arlington. 2015, Connect Arlington was kind of stood up and driven towards being used as an economic development engine. That didn't quite happen for various reasons, and the commission was looking at how to break down the barriers to making that happen. The report was released in January of 2019. I'm not sure that anything has any of the actions on that recommended were taken, and so we have a request into DTS to get us an update on the status of any of those items.
There were some major changes made, but
Right.
not necessarily in line with the recommendations.
Yeah, so, but I wanted to provide it as good background because it does have kind of history of Connect Arlington, some of the issues. So I would recommend you guys familiarize yourself with the content. Mike, did you want to follow up on that and that reference and what?
No, my question remains the same. I just wanted to provide the source of where I saw the aspiration to make Arlington an AI hub that rivals Silicon Valley. And if that is going to be embraced, there are sizable digital implications to that. And it may be that we should take the lead in assessing and then reconciling this vision with other strategy elements and recommendations.
Yeah.
Also, I'd want to know what that means. I mean, what does it mean to be a hub if it's for things you don't own?
That's very subjective.
Well, I think one thing it means is a sizable increase in the amount of energy consumption that would need to be reconciled with the energy plans.
Yeah.
But they're not here. And that's one of the things on Libby's, one of the things that she has expressed that she feels we need to address in the visioning 2050 Arlington as part of impacts of climate change. She was stormwater, heat, and the resiliency of the grid. More because the grid is getting taxed from all of the server farms that are coming up all around in Virginia for AI, but also.
And all those EVs that we're going to be plugging.
But it's also our plan to get away from carbon and have everything become electric stoves, electric cars, electric everything. We are also going to be adding to that. And we don't have a plan for how the grid is going to sustain any of that. And if we have flooding and heat, one of the things you need for mitigation of both of those is power.
That's for sure.
I just to put the final point on, I attended a briefing by some professors at Columbia University who have been studying the interface between AI and climate change. And this question always comes up: will AI be a net loser in energy consumption, even as it provides more and more services and functionalities? And their answer was not nationwide, but that it is already happening in Loudoun County, which of course is the biggest hub for internet traffic and all of those server farms. I just thought it would be a consideration, and more generally, I think that any broadband plan that gets advanced and any strategic plan for the county that gets advanced has to take AI into consideration in terms of energy, economic development, equity, all of it.
I think it's important to have a distinction between broadband and AI, because AI is just a technology that uses the internet server, like just uses the technology, the server farms, right? It needs the power to be able to do it, but AI in and of itself is not using the Loudoun power farms. It's using part of it, but that's also using your email and the Amazon data strategies and any mom and pop, like any kind of technology that's out there uses its server farms. It's not just AI based.
No.
Yeah, and
they're the primary cause of the quantum leap in growth in that area. Because they're no, you don't think that they're causing that?
I think that we don't need to solve that problem.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
I think the framework that we had originally recommended was kind of three areas, three kind of buckets of things. There were things that the county government controlled, right? County operations, county services. There were things that the county could influence in terms of regulatory authorities or how it engaged in the marketplace. And then there were things that the community cares about that the county might be able to have a secondary or tertiary impact on. I like those buckets because we can do really concrete things in the areas that the county controls or the county has direct influence on. And the other stuff, we can nibble around the edges potentially if we see a clear nexus, right, between county policy and those
Where do you
items.
put economic development? Is that bucket 2?
I would be put it in bucket 2, right? The county definitely gets involved in economic development. It definitely promotes the county as a place to do business, promotes the place as a hub for artificial intelligence and other technology sector, knowledge sector activities. And so there are policies, there's investment, there's appropriations going, there's staff work going towards positively influencing the economic activity here in Arlington because it matters to Arlingtonians, right? So I would think of most of the players in AI and other technologies, cybersecurity, we want them to locate here because we want the jobs here. We want our office buildings filled. And yeah, that's, from an economic development standpoint. So I think if we stick in those buckets, we'll be safe. And so whether or not the server farms in Loudoun are running off of renewable energy or not is something that we're not going to be able to control. What we could potentially control is whether or not Arlington County is buying services from internet service providers who offset their carbon emissions or not, right? Now, all the cloud service providers already do that. So then it becomes a question of, well, how do we offset that's good enough? And then we go down the rabbit hole, but that's really more of a C2E2, the Energy Commission.
But the digital strategic plan, I think the biggest gap is in bucket number 1.
I think that is where we should focus first. I agree. Other stuff is, we're all technologists in one sort of another, so we're all interested in it, and we're all like, woo, let's go down that, let's figure out the new stuff. But I think we need to focus on the bread and butter stuff first. That would be my recommendation. And specifically when it comes to broadband, to your point, the bits are the bits. They need to flow, right? They need to flow fast. There needs to be lots of them. They need to be secure.
And that was as an equity issue, also an educational and communication issue, which are both county areas of interest and responsibility. Not just to be faster, more, but to have access.
That's right. That's right. Not sure where to go next. Anybody have any ideas?
So what was bucket 1 again? What was
The
area?
the issues that Arlington County government has direct control over. County operations, county services.
But do we think those are rushed development?
Like workforce development, stuff like that?
Could be workforce development. I think that might be kind of like bucket 2 because we're probably not doing the development ourselves, but we might be funding a nonprofit, creating partnerships, that kind of thing.
You know, I think these are good buckets, but they're based on control. And in terms of governance, what you control and don't control is not what there are lots of things in this comprehensive plan that are not strictly under control, direct control. They are areas of influence. One of the problems comes on implementation, in that the challenge I'm working on, access to green space, for example. So we have like 4 different commissions that all said we need to acquire more green space in an equitable way. But easier said than done. So then the question is, well, what control does the county have? How much money should you be willing to spend? Should you be spending that instead of commercial space? I mean, you can make it under control, but at what cost is really the issue for a lot of these things.
Yeah. So I think what I would like us to do is to spend some time thinking about what the outcomes we think are. And even if you're not sure what the right value, if the outcome is, increased speed, just for argument's sake. Even if we don't know, well, should it be a gigabit? Should it be 2? Should it be 500 megabits, right? Just come up with what you think the outcomes should be, or even outcomes that we should discuss.
How about we start with our recommendations?
Our recommendations.
The list of recommendations that we had for the budget would be outcomes I would start with. Those are things we've already identified as issues and priorities. So any comprehensive plan we would do, we would want to incorporate the way to achieve those priority issues we've already identified.
I think that's a great starting place. But I think there's probably more because we were focused on budget, things that are.
And that was only operating budget, not capital, and capital.
Coming up next. That, and then, Frank, I think you and I should probably engage to determine whether the Center for Innovative Technology, which I believe has been renamed since this was written, has received any requests for technical assistance or has any technical assistance available. they may be able to come and brief us on some pieces of the puzzle. So I think that's our homework to do. Anything else?
I'll just bring up one thing. I mean, we talk about speed and everything, but I think affordability is like a main too.
Very much so, and adoption.
Yeah.
When you look at the strategies to provide broadband infrastructure that is sufficient to meet the current and future needs of residents and businesses in the locality, it may not be too heavy a lift, Arlington being Arlington, to satisfy the needs of businesses and the affluent residences of Arlington County. It's always been, a problem everywhere, including probably in Arlington, to provide affordable broadband, to ensure that affordable broadband is provided, and to encourage to the greatest extent possible broadband adoption, broadband education, so that low-income people, especially in the county, can take advantage of broadband to improve their lives.
I have a question in that how much of this we can control, because the infrastructure for that is controlled by Verizon and AT&T, Sprint. That they actually build the channels, the networks, the web that allows us to have broadband access. So how much of that can we control? So
I think that is a good question. I don't know that it's one that we necessarily need to answer. I think I was bringing up the Affordable Housing Master Plan to give us a flavor of what some principles from another plan might look like to kind of spark our thoughts. We could put out a principle, or if we were going in the more Teams has changed its interface, and it's terrible. They're like, let me take the worst part of Zoom and add it to Teams. Right, so here we have goal objectives, right? We're gonna identify and addresses any, right? It's very, very nitty gritty, right? So we could have a principle or a goal that said Arlington County should have reliable, fast, low speed, affordable internet for everybody, right? And then down below that, we can say, here's the objective. Here's, here's what the policy is. The policy is going to be, we're going to define affordable as X percent of your household income, right? And we wouldn't necessarily have to do that as this commission. We could set the principles and objectives, and then as the plan gets developed, those kind of details can be filled in.
I guess my concern is how, right? Because if we have zero control over their relationship with the provider, right? Like we can't, do we partner with them? Do we have how do we approach that?
So the broadband study identified 4 different models. One of them was creation of a wireless services corporation, which some folks in the community are advocating for, where we'd essentially have a municipal broadband network as a competitor. You could outsource that infrastructure to another commercial provider, and because you're giving them the infrastructure and they're operating it, you can get it at a lower cost to try to increase competition. There's direct subsidies. I mean, there's a range of policy options that the county might consider to drive prices lower. Or we might say, you know what, it is affordable already, so check, done, right? This is now a baseline that we're going to maintain over the long run.
What struck me about the study so far is not all those options. It was really the conclusion that the biggest part of the issue is outreach and education about what is available, and particularly the subsidies that are available. And there's an example of where there was some data that compared Arlington subscribers to, I think Fairfax was one of them. And we had, I think it was under 50% participation in the subsidy, and they had like 75% or something like that. And a lot of the conclusions, I think this was actually report 1 I'm thinking of, but maybe it was just emphasized again in report 2, was that it might be that the most cost-effective thing was outreach and education, because it's accessible and it's affordable. It's just they don't know how to do it. And they need, and in fact, we had someone talked about how it took basically individual one-by-one tutoring to get it to happen.
Wonder
So
how much
here's
of
how
that
you
is-
sign up.
How much of that is a factor of the demographics in Fairfax versus Arlington? Because we have the skew so educated, and so it would not be an issue. They wouldn't implement and
Eligibility is a similar demographic.
So lots of different options, but I think our goal here as a commission is volunteers who meet once a month and do a few hours of work in between is let's set the framework, set some goals, some outcomes, some principles of what we think are important. Another area that wasn't not really addressed, I think, in depth in the broadband study is research institutions and institutions of higher education, right? One of, I think, our major assets here is the number of universities and graduate programs that we have located here that are doing stuff. And if they need that access, they need really, really high-speed stuff, right? They can't deal with commercial, even, commercial for business kind of access. So I think there's layers of things that we can think about. I want you guys to take some time, just throw spaghetti at the wall, no bad ideas, and then we'll come together and we'll kind of cull it down and pull it down into something that's a little bit more manageable and coherent.
Who's going to look at what things besides this would go under that umbrella? Starting with our priorities.
I'd like to start with this, Jackie, to be honest with you. I'd like to start with the infrastructure piece,
Within
the broadband. Let's start with this.
I don't think, personally, that's there, our study has already done. I don't think we have to do another thing, because that doesn't say access. There's nothing in there about are people actually using it. It's just, is it available? And we've already determined through our study that it's available. What we've determined is it's available. The people who don't have it have subsidies that are available to them, and that they don't know about it, and it requires one-on-one to help them do that. It's like.
Will the subsidies continue to be available to them?
Well, that-
The ACP?
Right now,
We don't
ACP,
know.
which is the largest one that was adopted,
Right.
is basically, April is the last full month of funding.
Right.
And and it does have broad bipartisan support, which is
Yeah.
obviously one.
But Congress has to do something.
Right, they're out
Right.
on,
Well, that will change things.
I'll tell you, my concern, Jackie, is that the study was scoped in the absence of strategic priorities. And it is answering the questions that were asked to it
Well, it answers that.
in the RFP. Well, this is the wastewater sanitary collection, so this is.
Yeah, well, it's whatever is highlighted in it before.
Yeah, so it answers the questions that were asked to it. I'm not sure.
I'm saying it answered the mandate that was in the legislation. Probably had it in front of them when it was designed. I mean, that's a question to ask. Were those studies designed to respond to this?
Well, the RFP is on the website. I scanned through it earlier today, and I want us to think independently about whether it was asked all the questions that it should have been, from our perspective.
Well,
And if the answer is yes, great. But there,
I'm saying something narrower than that.
Yeah.
Did it answer the questions the legislation has? Because you wanted to focus on that first.
strategies to provide broadband infrastructure that is sufficient to meet the current and future needs of residents and businesses in the locality.
I think it did, I think it was structured to answer that question. I think it has answered that question, except it's how you define need. If need means people have signed up, no, because it doesn't have the outreach piece as part of it.
Nothing in
But If
here,
we're talking about the technical part, it's there.
nothing in here talks about cost.
That's what I'm saying. The legislation doesn't say anything about cost.
Right.
Or use.
But I think you can read, I think all of those considerations are implied.
Oh, I don't know. It's more like, did you build a bridge, not does anyone use it?
Did you put barriers around the pilings?
Yeah. Bridge was a bad example.
Yeah. But so my point is, I think we're independent. We're here to have that conversation and provide that perspective. So I think we should do that because we're gonna get phase 3. There's going to be a recommendation on the table. And I'd like us to have independently thought about what we think is right. And if those things line up, great. And if they don't, then the county board should hear from us that we think differently.
So I have a second priority, which is not a dictated priority.
Sure.
It's the optional priority. And that is, we're going through a visioning year, one time only. It's going to probably take more than a year, but this particular one, with Libby at the lead, is going to be her term.
Yep.
And in support of that, CPHD has said they are going to be looking, and AED, are looking at the comprehensive plan. And it's also their 5-year review of the comprehensive plan. So they're looking at, do we need to think a little broader as we change the comprehensive plan? And I want to make sure that if you think this should be on there in a broader form, that we get that on the table during the discussion. So that we're not just being reactive here. Particularly since the things that should go in that are the things we've had on our list as priorities for the last 5 years or more.
I'll say, I'm not limiting ourselves to just the infrastructure. I just want to start there. And I want to get that.
It's the timing I'm worried about.
I understand. But I want to get that to a place where we're comfortable with it. And we'll see how the timing shakes out.
So by fall, we need to be ready to talk about some of these other things, because that's going to be,
I think probably before that.
yeah. I don't know when the RFP is going to be, when they're going to hire, maybe you guys know, when they're going to actually take on whoever is managing the community process for this visioning. But that should be coming. It's kind of stalled right now until that happens.
So I will say that DCS has had discussions with CPHD as far as their updating the comprehensive plan. We've talked about some potential options, but there's no decision.
But they've reached out to you in that
Reached out to
context.
them,
So that's exactly what I'm saying. It's,
but I'm not prepared to discuss what we talked about.
no, I understand that. I just want us to be prepared to discuss it. So
Yeah,
that you're prepared on your side, we're also prepared. Because
So
I'm
we-
saying,
so we've had those engagements.
it's
but I-
on the table, the topic is on the table.
Yes, so I would say whether it's a revised memo that you all put together and making recommendations towards the board on what you'd like to see in that, but there are discussions.
And this is where we can get to.
This is the Virginia Code, so this, I'm just pulled it off of the Virginia Legislative Information Services website.
I think we all received an email with the link to this, right?
Yeah.
I haven't read it, the law on, Virginia's law on the comprehensive plan as a whole is really good context for seeing where this little piece fits, along with land use and transportation, resilience and everything else.
Jackie, I really appreciate the fact that you like reading this law. You think it's a good read.
I I've read it multiple.
We're in the right place.
I've read it multiple times. Because, reason why, is because ordinances, the second piece of this, he
Yep.
said this is not the ordinances.
Right.
The ordinances are derived from this.
Yep.
And frequently in other areas, not this area, because we haven't, I think because we're behind on this area, ironically, but in other areas, when the community gets to the point where they're saying, you need to be making this happen, the staff, the board come back with saying, we don't have the authority to do that. And so when you're writing the comprehensive plan, at the same time, you need to be thinking about, do we have the authority to make this happen? And that's the control piece that you're talking about. And if we don't, what legislation do we need to have in our package next year to make sure we do? Because it is very important that we avoid the trap. Easy route being to say, well, we like that idea too, but we can't do it.
Well, it's also beyond authority, it's also a resource issue.
Well, yes, because
It's a big resource constraint.
but usually these things get stopped at that we don't have the authority before they get to the, and we don't have the resources. It may be that we don't have the authority because we don't have the resources, and we don't want to talk about it. But I'm just saying, it's like, that's the first barrier that gets thrown up.
Yep. All right. Everyone understand their assignments? All right. We're not gonna need it by next meeting, Jackie, because next meeting, I think we're gonna need to talk about the capital improvement plan.
Yeah.
So put that on your calendars. If you thought the budget was over and done with, round two is coming up. The manager's asking for feedback currently. I think the proposed capital improvement plan will come out before our next meeting. So please keep your eyes out, take a look at it, and come prepared next meeting to discuss
Yeah,
that.
they've asked for comments. The comment period that they've asked for right now, this round, April 8th.
Yep. April 8th. Is-
The day of the eclipse.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what happens if you don't,
Everyone's gonna be-
if you don't listen to Jackie's comments, she will blot out the
Take
sun.
4 minutes off in the mid-afternoon.
We are April 4th at 3 p.m.
Yes, your
Is the DTS capital conversation.
capital conversation is April 4th?
It's PAYGO, GCF, TIF, Metro, and debt. So we fit into some of that.
And that's not the budget, that's not a budget work session. You've already done that.
This is the capital version.
I guess I don't have the schedule of the capital work session. Is that a set schedule just like all the others?
It should be,
Yeah.
yeah, it should be on the website.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
It's listed as a county board budget work session.
Yeah.
For
I
capital.
need to catch.
And also for the next session, Chief Experience Officer, as well as our new deputy director.
Great. I also have guest speakers
Right.
lined up for April. Professor from George Mason over here, the new, I'm gonna get the name wrong, the Innovation Center, who doing a research project that has implications for digital equity. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation. And I think we'll try and make collaboration with our friends over at George Mason a regular occurrence. So, all right. Legislative update, or sorry, DTS update.
No additional updates.
Great.
Then, Legislative.
Legislative update. Frank.
Month, the FCC adopted a voluntary labeling program for manufacturers of smart wireless Internet of Things, IoT devices interconnected with the internet that the manufacturers can follow to indicate to consumers that the device meets certain cybersecurity protections consistent with the federal government's cyber trust mark. And the goal is to educate consumers that they can make better purchasing decisions in connection with these IoT devices. That camera that you've got in your kid's bedroom, you want to make sure it's got some cyber security.
I mean, I wonder if it's labeling inside your refrigerator.
That's
Standard labels help
That's
consumer choice.
You want to have a cyber trust mark. As part of the FCC's annual assessment of the deployment of advanced telecommunications capability, it raised the FCC's benchmark for high-speed fixed broadband to 100/20 megabits per second from the previous 25.3 Mbps benchmark. Better, faster, all that good stuff.
I believe that's the benchmark they're looking for in the broadband study.
Yes, let's consider. I think they were using 120.
Yeah.
That's my record.
Remember that whole issue we went through when they phased out 3G?
Right.
I have a medical device that had a modem that used 3G that went dark when they phased it out. And last week, I got the replacement modem for it.
Wow.
I've been having to carry little chips around.
I got rid of the one that was on 4G because I was waiting for that to come, and now it just works off Bluetooth. So it's future proof.
Just that's how long the client, the patient or the client has to wait for things to turn over.
All right, FCC Chairwoman Rosenworth Morsel has proposed a plan to lower costs and address the lack of choice for broadband services available in multi-dwelling unit MDUs by seeking to eliminate bulk billing arrangements that mandate a specific broadband service provider for the building.
Yeah.
So you may be getting some relief.
So is this a rule-making
It's a proposal.
process?
Yeah, I think it's just at this point, it's basically a next step. They had taken some other steps earlier to try to provide greater choice in MDUs.
Interesting.
So this is yet another step in that campaign.
That's huge.
Yes, would be for Arlington, I would think.
Yeah.
And the FCC has issued formal notice to ACP providers that due to a lack of additional funding from Congress, the FCC will only be able to fully fund the AC program through the month of April. There's some thought that they have enough money to get into May, but the only month that they can fully fund is April right now. The FCC has adopted a new all-in pricing order, which basically it's being billed as a crackdown on pay TV junk fees by requiring cable and satellite operators to advertise one all-inclusive price for their linear video service. I've got this one.
All right, thank you, Frank. Anything for the good of the order?
I do have the minutes that we've already circulated.
Yes, which ones was that, Frank?
Do you recall? I think it's December, January.
There's several that, and the last meeting, there wasn't a vote to adopt.
Right, so that's what I'm coming back, trying to come back to.
You need to, whatever you've got done, you need a motion.
Okay, yes. So I approve. I approve.
It's hard to do that when you don't know what they are.
Right, why didn't we?
They've
pass
been
last month?
circulated.
You recall, why didn't, there were minutes before us?
No, they had actually been circulated, I believe, in January.
Yeah, we missed,
By the
I just recall that I missed an event.
Yeah,
And I went through the transcript
look
to
at
find
the,
the motion and couldn't find it. So
Right.
that's when I followed it.
Right, and
So I believe.
I think we have at least two in the queue. You had provided the one.
Yeah, so I did the minutes for December.
Right, December, I know.
Yeah, December was sent around.
And I think January, or were you doing, I forget.
Yeah, I
Just
think
set it up.
I said.
I think you said you would do February.
Yeah, and I have not.
But you haven't, but I think somebody did do January. Mike, did you do, I think, no, you haven't done one for a bit. Or did you, yeah, I don't, yeah, you,
Next month.
next, okay. I'm pretty sure we had two circulated,
At least,
yeah.
So I guess do some
I
research. on that.
did one set, but that was from several months ago.
Yeah, that was, I think we approved yours.
So I was thinking this would be a good example where maybe we would want to, we get the transcripts, right? Are they clean transcripts or do they have all
It's a little rough because everything is attributed to me.
Right.
As the reporting person.
the, does it have the time stripped out and stuff, or is it?
It has timestamps. Yeah.
Oh, it has the time
Yeah, it does
stamps in
have the
it?
time, yeah,
So you,
So I don't have approved November, December, January, or February minutes.
so I think we at least circulated November and December.
I was gonna suggest, you're using Teams, right? And I don't know whether Teams has this, but Zoom, you could use the AI companion and you could get a transcript that doesn't have all those timestamps in it. And then you can actually then use ChatGPT to put it into paragraphs. And it's much quicker to do minutes.
Yeah, you do have to transform. The statute for Florida says you cannot use a transcript as the minutes. So it has to go through some sort of
Even if you want to do
transformation.
GPT, you have to rewrite it. I'm just saying, at least you can get it into sentences. You'll still have to go through it and
So
make
the,
words make sense.
the December minutes were sent out in January. I think those are the last minutes that I got out.
So I just got December.
And I just forwarded them.
This is all open a set of minutes, so you can see what they look like.
And I think Gary did the November minutes.
Yeah, that's the November.
I get a DocX or a BTT. I don't know what a BTT is, but see what it looks like. I'll download both.
So I think.
So do I have a motion to approve the December minutes?
I move that we approve the December minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The December minutes are adopted. We will catch up.
And did we do November?
Didn't you say, Richard,
So
that
November
we
was
need to
sent
do November, right?
Yeah, I think Gary did, yeah. So what you had approval for November.
So you get a Word doc? Oh,
Yeah, November
All
was
these
sent.
things. So this is what it
December
typically
21st.
looks like. So it's heavily formatted.
Right.
But because we meet in one room, the person recording is attributed to all the comments. When you're meeting when everybody's on their own microphone at home, you get a much better transcript.
yeah.
I don't know what a BT file is, so it's
Actual transcript.
Video text tracks.
let's see what it looks like.
It's broken.
Oh, no, it's text, but it's got heavy time codes in it.
Well, that's the problem that I'm having. If you try to use any of this, there's a way to strip those out. It's not really
Yeah. I just forwarded the November minutes.
Drop Anita.
I have a motion to adopt the November minutes.
I move that we adopt the November minutes.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The November minutes are adopted. All right, I don't think we have draft January and February minutes because I think I said I'd do it and then I never did it. So I have that on my homework list.
And if we can figure out a way to make use of artificial intelligence.
It just seems like it would be worth it, but
Well, I'm hacking away at it, Jackie, so maybe I'll come up with something.
because I've tried it now using my Zoom recordings, and
Andrew,
It's
you're
not
reading
simple.
an AI book. You gonna hack it out for us?
Yeah, I actually been trying to do
Yeah.
some training.
and I'm using ChatGPT 4.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, send it to everybody, but there's also something that is, it's not Zoom dependent or anything dependent. It's a third-party option that records transcripts beautifully and very simple. Like it doesn't
Yes.
have junk in it. It's not, it has an AI component to it that helps clean them up. And you can elect, like, well, it would just be, but as a user, you can elect which things you want to have the transcription.
I did Google it, and it was a two-step. First, you run this code, and then you do this.
Well-
It was simple, but I just didn't get to it.
And the videos all end up on YouTube, so if you can find a trick to make a YouTube video, You can skip these transcripts.
I copy this.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't learned how to do that.
Google probably has something in the works.
All right.
That's way above
Open,
my pay.
open call for meeting minute AI for free. If anyone finds it,
If anyone
Let us
figures out
know.
how to do it, it would be
Right.
worthwhile.
yeah.
But if there's a company out there that wants to locate in Arlington and do that, we'll be glad to be their guinea pig.
To pay them nothing for it.
Right, to be their guinea pig.
For the low price of $0.
But it doesn't fix the fact that their audio is lousy and then it doesn't interpret words very well.
Well, that is always a problem. All right, anything else? Good to the order? Motion to adjourn?
So
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. See you in April.
Good meeting, everybody.